On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, the streak is over, and Pascal Siakam is the reason why. We will dig into how and why Pascal Siakam was able to put up 52, 9, and 7 to take down the Knicks and their winning streak and the Raptors losing streak. We'll get to all that. We got the good, the bad, and the and so much more. Plenty of flowers, plenty of excitement, and less trade talk than we've had all week long. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to episode number 1307 of Locked On Raptors for Thursday, December the 22nd. I'm your host, Sean Woodley. Been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 9 seasons. You can find all of my work over on Twitter at WoodleySean. You can follow, subscribe to, rate, and review the podcast for free on your favorite podcast apps. And you can go over to YouTube, hit the big red subscribe button there to support the show in video form. And it's much appreciated when you do that. And coming at you at a little earlier of a drop time than we typically do here for the show. But that's because we got a really fun win to break down. A win! A win! It's wonderful! I forgot what this feels like. It feels like it's been forever since the Raptors picked up a dub. And we're going to dig into it on today's show. Of course, Pascal Siakam will be the headliner and probably come up multiple times throughout the show. Because what we just saw from him was one of the single best Raptors single game individual performances I have ever seen. I've been covering this team for 9 years. I've been watching this team for like 24 years. And I don't know if I've ever seen something more impressive than what Siakam just did at MSG. We will talk about that and much more in just a second. But before we do that, just let you know, today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, let's get to it. Like I said, we'll get to the good, the bad, and the later on. We're going to hand out flowers to the likes of Fred VanVleet and Malachi Flynn, rotation player Malachi Flynn. Put the stamp on it. It's there. We'll get to all of that, but my goodness, Pascal Siakam in this game, 41 minutes. The dude just plays all the minutes and doesn't seem to slow down. It's one of the most unheralded things about Pascal Siakam. You know, all this concern and consternation about minutes, the dude just keeps on playing. He played all but 2 minutes in the first half, and in that first half, he put up 26, 5, and 5, and it was like, wow, that was impressive. No way he's going to top that in the second half. Nope, he just does the exact same, 26 points again in that second half. The third quarter, 17 straight points to respond to a Knicks run, which looked like it was going to send this game down a familiar script. And Siakam just there to sort of shut the door on New York. I mean, what else can you say about this dude? 52, 9, and 7, 17 of 25 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3, 16 of 18 from the free throw line. He was a pivotal factor on defense as well, as the Raptors went with a lot of zone in this game. We'll talk about that coming up as well. But man, just there is a lot that we've said about Pascal Siakam on this show, and a lot of things Raptors fans have said about Pascal Siakam positively. But I don't even know if they fully encapsulate what an incredible player this dude is and just how pivotal he is to everything the Raptors want to do. The Raptors' best lineup is right now is Pascal plus any 4 guys, and he makes it work. Happened in the second quarter, playing out there with Thad and Juancho and Malachi Flynn and Chris Boucher. Just kind of no matter the teammates he's out there with, they even at times in this game staggered him without Fred VanVleet, which was a bit of a new little wrinkle in the rotation patterns as well for Nick Nurse. And he was able to rock without Fred VanVleet just fine and get his own. I know there's been a lot of stuff this week and over the course of the losing streak. Okay, what do you do going forward here? Do you move on from Pascal Siakam because he's not in the same timeline as Scottie Barnes? The reality is, this is the Pascal Siakam timeline. This is the Pascal Siakam era of the Raptors. And as great as Scottie Barnes figures to potentially be one day, he was certainly not that tonight. We'll get to that later on in the bad section of the good, the bad, and the As much as Scottie Barnes is pivotal to the future of the team, this is Siakam's time, and it should be on the front office to be maximizing what they have in this guy. He's unbelievable. He's one of the best players in the NBA. And to not want to keep him around long term, to be sort of spooked off by the potential of a supermax. And I saw someone today in the comments suggest, oh, but like if you sign Siakam to a supermax, if it happens, then you're going to have the Beal or Levine contract on your hands, and that's just not true. He's better than both of those guys by orders of magnitude. He's incredible. He can be an offense unto himself. Obviously, for the team to have real results, he's going to need help, and he got some help tonight, and that was fantastic. But the way he just seems to know the beats and rhythms of every single player on the floor. It's not just the guys on his own team. It's not just the defense. He knows what everything he does, whenever he makes a move with the ball, whenever he looks at the rim, whenever he does anything, he knows the exact reaction that's going to come from any other player on the floor. It's just complete and total basketball control. And while he's not maybe the most sort of explosive dude, he's not Giannis powering to the rim for thrilling dunks over and over again. He is every bit a superstar. He is every bit a guy that you keep your team together to build around. And tonight I think was just like a wonderful reminder of that, and the timing of it for him to break the losing streak with his individual brilliance. To me, that just speaks to, the exact type of guy that he is, the exact reasons why the front office, why Masai Ujiri in the offseason said, that's a dude you go to war with. I'll have that guy on my team any day. And for me, like, you even look up and down the roster, you look at Scottie Barnes, for example, really struggling right now, having such a difficult time with the speed of defense in the NBA and having a lot of growing pains, as is to be expected. Tonight was one of his worst games, and again, we'll get into it later, but to have that dude playing underneath the tutelage of Pascal Siakam, I don't know how that doesn't make you feel good about the long-term prospects, because Siakam is living proof that, like, the work pays off, the work matters, and the work he's put in to become this level of player, the guy who can just go off from mid-range because the rim is being walled off by Mitchell Robinson, and Julius Randle had himself a pretty nice defensive game, I guess, considering he was guarding Pascal and allowed him to go for 52, maybe not that nice, but like around the rim, he was a deterrent, as was Mitchell Robinson, as was Isaiah Hartenstein. The Knicks, pretty good defensive team all told, and yet whatever they threw at him, he was able to counter it. The pull-up mid-range game is just such an added element to what he's doing this season. I'm sure the numbers will go up significantly after this game. I'm just going to try to find it right here on the fly, see where he's at from the various spots in the mid-range. But we know that it's just a total new repertoire from him. He's at 37% right now between 16 feet and the 3-point line. He's at 44% from 10 to 16 feet. And that's going to go up after this one. He was just unbelievable. It didn't matter where the Knicks funneled him to, what spots they wanted him to go to. He was burying it. And you factor in the playmaking as well. He hit Malachi Flynn. There was a very indicative playmaking situation in this game where it was in the first half, I believe, as Pascal's going off, and he is, kind of in the middle of a ridiculous second quarter as he puts up like 14 points or whatever the hell it was. It was insane. I think he ended up with 17 in the quarter, actually. But he had been drawing the attention of the Knicks nonstop for good reason, and then all of a sudden he can kick into playmaker mode when the defense collapses even further. You leave a Malachi Flynn wide open on the wing. He's finding him for those shots. Like, there were a couple turnovers here and there you would like back, probably. Actually, just one turnover. Wow. One turnover. One. Ridiculous. A couple sort of almost busted plays, I guess, that were kind of sticking in my mind as turnovers that were not in fact. But I'm without words. If you don't think Pascal Siakam is the dude you kind of build this team around going forward, I don't know. Maybe I'm just speaking to a particularly insane subset of the fan base. But if you can watch Pascal Siakam night to night, see what he does, see him put in, again, one of the best single Raptors performances that we've ever seen, considering the circumstances, how necessary that win felt as well. The difference between 14 and 18 as opposed to 13 and 19 just feels absolutely massive. And Siakam is the reason that they're at 14 and 18 and seem to maybe have a glimmer of hope here. Schedule's still hard. The work's not all done in one shot here. There's plenty of stuff to work on, of course, for this team. And there were times in this game where it looked like they were going to piss it away, and it was totally maddening. But Pascal Siakam, man, that dude is the dude you go to war with, and it was a lovely reminder of that tonight. 52-9-7. Insane. Truly insane. Unguardable. We're going to come back on the other side, dig into the other good stuff from this game that I thought is worth noting. Talk about the zone defense and the way the Raptors, I think, kind of very smartly altered their base defense in this one. We'll get into OG Anunoby and Fred VanVleet, who I thought had really strong games. Malachi Flynn as well. We'll get to that coming up in just 1 second here. But before we do that, today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Unfortunately, life doesn't come with a user manual, so when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. It is a very difficult thing, dealing with difficult emotions, not having people to throw your thoughts and ideas and emotions off of. And you don't want to do that all for someone else. You know, for example, someone you love, you dump all your stuff onto them. They have stuff they're dealing with as well. A therapist gives you someone who you can talk to about you and have no biases, no baggage, nothing built in. It's just you and your therapist talking about you and trying to help you grapple with what's going on in your own head. BetterHelp is the wonderful way to get in touch with therapists who are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. I myself have not done therapy in the past. I have very much circled it and considered it. It's a thing I'm grappling with that I should probably talk to a therapist about my inability to dive on into it. However, lots of people I know have used therapy as a way to better understand themselves and work on themselves, find coping mechanisms, whatever it might be. All of our struggles are different, and the therapists that BetterHelp offers are there to help you identify those struggles and make it so you can cope with them and live a more positive life. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. All right, we continue on. I apologize in advance if this is like a bit of a scattershot chaos episode. Normally, I'll save the podcast for the next morning. I'll watch the game back again, gather my thoughts, but I really felt like I should be jumping on here to sort of meet you in the moment of the streak ending, which again feels just a massive weight off the shoulders. This game felt like a playoff game, but without like the joy and anticipation that typically comes with a playoff game. It was like all dread, because there was a completely total downside if you lose this game. Like, you fall to 13-19, the vultures circle more, another game that a lot of people watched on a crazy NBA night, lots of folks tuning in, and to have them lose that one after such a promising start to this one as well would have been just a total gut shot. And it was really, really great. A total relief when Julius Randle airballed that layup at the end of the game. That was sort of like, oh, okay, the streak's over. Things can be normal now. The Raptors maybe have a chance to restabilize and sort of figure themselves out here as they stopped the bleeding, at least for one day. And let's dive into some of the other reasons why they were able to stop the bleeding. We'll talk in a sec about some players, but I do think Nick Nurse deserves some credit for what he did in this game defensively. Raptors ran a whole lot of zone in this one. I don't know the full numbers on how it's too close after the game to know, but they ran zone a ton in this game, and it bothered the Knicks. It discombobulated them. It made them confused. It made them force up a lot of threes. They shot 11 of 26 from three in this game, but it felt like a lot of those kind of came, not at critical junctures of the game, if you will. Like, I think the Raptors' zone defense worked incredibly well in very important key pockets of the game. Start of the fourth quarter, for example, second quarter as well. But start of the fourth quarter, I think, was kind of one of the key pivot points, maybe of the entire season, frankly. The zone defense was excellent. They bought Pascal Siakam 4+ minutes there, through a combination of OG, Thad, and Fred VanVleet. That was beautiful to see. And the thing that I liked about going to the zone, and I've been kind of advocating for this a little bit more, not just zone in particular, but just like a simplification of what the Raptors do on defense, is, guys seem confused. Guys seem not on a string, and the Raptors' defense, as it's constructed, when it's not on a string, the issues compound and sort of layer on top of one another and make it really difficult for the Raptors to get the rope back. Whereas when you're in the zone, it's simplified. Obviously, it's not the easiest thing. There's a lot of intricacies to it, all of that, but It's a simplified form of playing defense. It doesn't require the massive ground coverage the Raptors typically ask for. And it freed up, I think, a little bit of energy for Pascal Siakam on the other end of the floor. And I just, like, for the half-court offense in general, Fred VanVleet operated the half-court offense really smoothly in this one. He missed some shots, but, the pick and roll he was operating was really nice to see. And it just felt like they had more juice on the offensive end. The last couple minutes of the game, maybe notwithstanding, but felt like they had more juice. It felt like maybe they conserved some energy defensively, and they didn't have to depend on steals and turnovers to get themselves rolling in this one. They forced a ton of turnovers later on in this game, but for the most part, like they weren't like running out with a ton of steals or anything like that. They only had in this game 7 steals, which is well below where they typically kind of come in, and I think because Pascal was just walking to wherever he wanted to go, getting to the line a ton, the Raptors had solutions to their half-court offense in this game, so it didn't require them to play in transition all the time. Look, they still got their opportunities on the run, to be sure, but the half-court was really where this game was won for the Raptors because they actually got production out of it, whether it was Fred VanVleet hitting threes, around screens in the pick and roll, whether it was, any of the various ways in which the Siakam-Fred pick and roll, the inverted version of it, was working in this game. That gave the Raptors enough in the half court and made it so they could be more chill on defense, and I think that benefited them greatly. So that was a great adjustment by Nick Nurse. We'll get to an adjustment I didn't like from him later on in the show, but some other notes here. I think Fred was tremendous. Yeah, 10 of 24. You like to be a little bit more efficient, especially from 2-point range. He was 4 of 10 from 3, and so the fast math is 6 of 14 from 2-point range. Not ideal. There were a few moments where he kind of seemed like he was out of ideas in the half court and couldn't quite size guys up, couldn't get the corner turned against some of the wing defenders the Knicks were throwing at him. But overall, 28 points, 4 assists, 3 steals as well. I don't know how you can be upset with what Fred did in this game. Obviously, the big 3 late, kind of on the run, catch and shoot on the wing. That's a massive game-changing shot right on the heels of that Randall miss, and that's, again, what kind of sealed it. Am I getting that right? I'm bad at remembering. I'm not LeBron at remembering the exact order of operations of plays. Either way, this is the side effect you get with me recording directly after the buzzer when I'm all juiced up and excited. But yeah, I thought Fred, the way he ran the half-court offense in this one, the way they just spammed that Siakam-Fred pick and roll, it works. It's a beautifully constructed play. It's really difficult to guard, and when you have any spacing around it at all, it becomes pretty devastating. And honestly, they didn't have a ton of spacing in this one. They didn't shoot well from 3, 9 of 34, kind of as you like with this team. It's typically how they roll. But with Fred being able to use those Siakam screens to burst free for those pull-up threes at the top of the arc. OG, I think, was spacing nicely in this game. 1 of 6 from 3. Don't love to see that. Not a great continuation from his promising return a couple nights ago from downtown, but still pretty good stuff there. I thought Fred was pretty integral to the way the half-court offense ran in this game, and it looked better than it has in a very long time. It was smooth. It was functioning for good long sections of this one. A couple of late game, it got a little bit hairy there because they just kind of ran out of ideas, a couple of busted possessions, things like that. That's going to be expected because they're not perfect, obviously, but really promising signs stepping forward in the half-court offense, and I think Fred was pretty important to that. And also, we got to give some love to Malachi Flynn because, boy, oh boy, he's a rotation guy now. He just has to be. He just does things on the floor that do good things for the Raptors. That's a very dumb worded way to say it, but 8 points in this one, just 2 assists, 2 of 5 from 3 though. He's shooting with reckless abandon. That's what you want to see. He's an actual, real live spacing option for the Toronto Raptors, which is not something they've had very much of this season. And I thought Flynn tonight was deserving of closing this one out. There's another guy who kind of almost maybe flirted with closing who didn't quite work out for. We'll talk about him in a sec. I keep on teasing to it. Scottie will be fine, but man. But yeah, Flynn's got to play. Just no full stop. He's got to be part of the rotation. He just offers something that the Raptors don't have a whole lot of. And the extra, even just a tiny little extra ball, the ball handling and creation that he brings, even though he's not doing it a whole lot, anytime he can kind of bail out the end of a clock with a mid-range jumper or something like that, that's a decent shot for the time and situation and stuff like that. So, Malachi Flynn, he's got to be in the rotation. I can't believe I'm saying it. I can't believe we're here, but it's undeniable at this point. Malachi Flynn was awesome tonight in, a muted stat line, but the plus 15, I think, very much tells the story. When he was on the floor, the Raptors looked like a more competent basketball team. He had the big block on Emmanuel quickly later on in the game as well. That's massive. I didn't know he could block threes. Just channeling his inner Chris Boucher out there. That was awesome. Just exciting stuff from Malachi Flynn. Hopefully this can continue forward. This has happened in the past, of course. He's had moments and stretches where he's strung it together, and then it's kind of tapered off. But this kind of feels different, honestly, a little bit. Nick Nurse is actually giving him extended run, and he's not looking like he's, afraid of the moment or anything like that. He was like super comfortable, very calming, honestly, as a player on the floor, as things were getting a little not so calm in the closing parts of this game. I thought Malachi Flynn was a really nice steadying presence. Really good stuff from him. Rotation his ass up, please. All right, let's continue on. On the other side, we will close it out with the good, the bad, and the way we round out every game recap episode of this here podcast. We will do that in just 1 second. Before we do that, however, I have to tell you about Sweat Block. And let me tell you, I wish I had Sweat Block on hand for me today. I am out of my Sweat Block wipes. They're on my list for Santa. I'm very excited to get them back because that was a stressful game, and I'm feeling it. I'm wearing a hoodie. Probably doesn't matter. It's probably showing through. Thankfully, it's a dark color. I have to wear all dark colors. That's just the way I roll because I am a sweaty guy, and Sweat Block helps me address that very, sometimes embarrassing problem because it's got a wonderfully formulated formula, good English, Sean, that keeps you from excessive sweating. The way you use it, before you go to bed at night, you throw on the wipes, you give it a little wipe down, you go to bed, you wake up, and boom, you have protection for up to 7 days from excessive sweating, all with Sweat Block. It gives you the confidence to wear what you want without embarrassing sweat. Sweat Block wipes are featured and tested on the Rachel Ray Show by firefighters. Those are sweaty dudes too as well, and they work. I am a user of Sweat Block. I fully endorse the product. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweat Block. Save 20% with the promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. Go check them out. All right, let's get into the good, the bad, and the to round out today's episode of the show. The good for me, I think I would trust Thaddeus Young with my life. We haven't talked about him a ton here. He played heavy minutes down the stretch here in this one. 24 minutes, 2 points, 4 boards, 7 rebounds, 3 steals. We love Thad Young, man. Like the muted stat line, but the very loud and declarative effect on positive winning basketball. The box outs, the way he kind of can slide in there to swipe a ball away and get a steal. The offensive rebounding, 3 offensive boards in this game, all of them pivotal. Thad Young, man, closing with him, he might be their best option as a closing center right now, especially with the next guy we're going to talk about struggling so profoundly at the moment. Thad Young is just like, I thought he should have closed the game on Monday. The Raptors might win the game on Monday against the Sixers if Thad Young plays the final couple minutes instead of Scottie Barnes. It just a really, really tight-ass basketball player who doesn't blow you away with anything he does. He's going to miss wide-open threes in very bricky fashion and all of that. But man, does the dude just know how to play winning basketball. He's the perfect encapsulation of the whole idea that young guys don't win games, veterans do. Thad Young does not nearly have the skill or the upside or the talent or the beautifully prosperous future in front of him that Scottie Barnes probably does. But right now, he's a guy who helps you win basketball games more. And that's just the value of having a dude who's been around the block. He just knows exactly where to be. A king of knowing where to stand. Shout out Patrick Redford, Albert Bernico. I'm not exactly sure which of the two defector writers coined it originally, but it's a common refrain over with those guys. It's he's a knows where to stand champion, and he was knowing where to stand real good tonight against the Knicks. Awesome stuff from Thad Young. The bad for me, let's talk about it. Scottie Barnes. This was, I think, the worst game Scottie Barnes has played as a Toronto Raptor. 27 minutes, 1 of 10 from the field, 2 points, 6 boards, 3 assists. He had a couple of nice assists, to be sure. He had a beautiful dump-off pass to a cutting Fred VanVleet who was getting in behind Mitchell Robinson. No look, no less, because that's what he does. He had the nice dump-off as well to OG Anunoby. But this was a struggle for Scottie Barnes. And truthfully, the defense, I don't know what's going on with the defense. around the rim, this is a tough matchup because the Knicks are big. Like, they're really burly. I think Scottie's had a pretty good run of being at least a deterrent at the rim, but in this one, Mitchell Robinson, too strong for him. Isaiah Hartenstein, too big for him. Julius Randle, too strong for him. And the problem was, like, the Raptors don't have a ton of rim protection as it is. Tonight, when those guys got inside 10 feet, they were basically just laying it in the bucket. That was just kind of how it was going. And Scottie Barnes, as much as he was doing the arms up, no fouling thing quite regularly in this one, only one personal foul from him. He was doing the sort of foul, get big and not foul thing. That was nice, but it just didn't really have much effect to it. And even more so is just the perimeter defense is non-existent right now. The transition defense looks just completely lost and confused. Like, he was in there tonight in the fourth quarter. I didn't think he should have come back in. I thought, benching him for the fourth quarter was the right idea. Normally, I'm fully in favor of playing guys through their struggles. Young guys in particular, let them figure it out. Let them make mistakes on the fly. It's all part of it. But when you've lost 6 games in a row and the win feels that necessary and that attainable, I didn't think Scottie Barnes should be in there. There's a timeout with 6:10 left to go in the fourth quarter. OG comes out for a sec. I just got to get him a breather, I suppose. Still getting back from injury. You don't want to overburden him too much. He plays 36 minutes in this one. But in those 2 minutes after OG goes out, Scottie comes back in for him, and it's just disastrous. Like, he does no idea where to be on defense. The offense right now, the decision-making is not quite fast enough. I don't worry about it necessarily because the flashes of what Scottie Barnes is capable of are more than enough to satiate me when I think about his upside. He is just a brilliant basketball player at his best. He is a massive physical force. He's strong. He can get downhill. He's a beautiful passer. He reads the game really well. That stuff, I feel like, is all eventually going to lead to a more consistent approach, a more night-to-night reliability in terms of what you're expecting from Scottie Barnes. But right now, just the total lack of an idea of what he's doing on defense. It's honestly some of the worst defense I've seen a Raptor play since, like, Matt Thomas. That's not company you want to be keeping, because Matt Thomas was a dude who I often referred to as a chicken with his head cut off on defense, just kind of flying around, putting his arms up, hoping something was going to happen. Scottie is kind of playing a similar style of defense right now. And, like, I think he's better than what he's shown, clearly. I do think as the Raptors hopefully maybe learn from this game and simplify things a little bit, that maybe things get a little easier for him, but the point of attack defense is not existent at the moment, and I think it was the right call to not close with him. I think it was the right call to yank him after those couple minutes with OG in. This is, again, nothing against the future of Scottie Barnes. I think he's going to be awesome. I think the flashes, I think it was our pal Jay on Twitter, and please forgive me if I'm misattributing this, but mentioned the reason, it was kind of a thread going on with myself and our pal Assad Alvi from Yahoo Sports. His note was, not so worried about Scottie because the ceiling is very clearly there. It's the floor that is really the problem right now, because the floor can just fall out from itself. And Assad kind of pointed out in that interaction we had that it's just like a lack of professionalism and preparation, it seems. And honestly, I think that's fair. Like, it does seem, the road games have been way worse for Scottie this season. The splits are, like, pretty profound there as well. You wonder if there's just something going on with just the way he's preparing, or just, you don't know. It's hard to say. A lot of stuff happens behind the scenes that we don't have an idea of. And as I'm recording this right now, I'm sure Nick Nurse is fielding questions about Scottie Barnes. And we'll have more to say on it. But, as far as right now, Scottie's not helping them win games. I still think most nights you're going to play him his 35 minutes or whatever it is and live with the mistakes. But tonight, when that win was so necessary, I think it was fine to leave him on the bench and to pull him out after that little stretch of not performing so well in OG's stead. He's going to be fine. There's a lot to like about Scottie Barnes. Just right now, he's kind of searching for it a little bit. And, they couldn't afford to let him search for it when the 7th straight loss is kind of sitting there and the season is, maybe not hanging in the balance, but certainly, like, it could be. I don't know. We're going to come back. Wait, we're not coming back. We're going to get now to the I got ahead of myself there. Round out the show with the I do just want to sort of go back to that start of the fourth quarter and just pause it. Are we going to look back on those 4+ minutes that the Raptors played with Fred VanVleet, Malachi Flynn, OG Anunoby, I want to say Chris Boucher and Thad Young, We're going to look back at that stretch where they win those minutes 9-7. Pascal on the bench having just scored the previous 17 points for the Raptors, getting a breather, having played through 3 quarters all but 2 minutes. They save maybe the whole season by winning that stretch of minutes without Pascal and getting him back into the game. Plenty of rest in that fourth quarter. He goes to work. He scores 9 points in the fourth. That was such a pivotal stretch, man. And I really do think if the Raptors can turn this thing around, stabilize, get on a bit of a run here going into the new year, we're going to look back at the start of the fourth quarter at MSG on December the 21st as one of the turning points of the season. There's a lot of work to be done. They could go and lose the next 3, and, considering how they've played, that maybe wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. But if there is a turnaround here, circle that 4-minute stretch at the start of the fourth quarter without Pascal Siakam. It was totally massive, really, and not something we've seen a whole lot of, right? Like, they have just kind of piddled away these leads, not survived without their best players. They needed to give Siakam just some support tonight. Would have liked a little bit more than 3 players in double figures. Obviously, Fred and OG really just kind of carrying the day for the rest of the supporting cast. Flynn, obviously, with the 8 points was nice too. But the way they survived those minutes, the defense, the turnovers they forced, really, really massive stuff. And with that, we're going to round out the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. There will be no Friday episode, holiday family stuff going on for me, so we'll be off that day, and so this will be the last episode before Christmas. If you're observing, have a wonderful holiday. We'll be back again next week on Monday to break down all that has gone on. Maybe not Monday. I'll be at a family thing. Tuesday, I promise you Tuesday is the next episode as we will trudge forward towards the new year. We'll go Tuesday through Friday next week and then get back to the regular 5-a-week schedule beyond that. But thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful holiday, everybody. Go make your second listen of the day Locked On Sports Today, as Pete Bukowski is running through the biggest stories from across the NBA, and maybe, just maybe, Pascal Siakam is going to find himself on the Thursday morning edition of Locked On Today, or at least he will, in the form of a mention by yours truly. Either way, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, thank you for supporting the show. It's holiday time. We're not going anywhere, but it always feels like the end of the year once we get to the holidays. So it's always nice to, I think, show some appreciation for the wonderful people who have supported this show for a very, very long time. You're all amazing, and looking forward to getting through the holidays here and getting back, and hopefully the Raptors can keep on winning the games, because it's really fun when they win games. We're not talking about trades. We're not talking about nothing, but good, fun basketball that a whole family can enjoy. That'll do it. We'll talk to you Thursday. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.